A very good evening. You're watching our special show ahead of the Union Budget that will be presented tomorrow, the last by the Modi government. Many believe, in fact, there's already a debate going on as to whether or not it will be just a vote on account or will it actually be a full-fledged budget. So a countdown to that final budget in the present of the present Modi dispensation. Right here we begin our big broadcast. Let's quickly take a look at some of those important breaking news that we are getting, in fact, ahead of that budget presentation, the inside details that we're picking up. Let's get started. Let's get the show going. The first breaking news that we're getting on the show, and then of course we open this up to our panel of experts as well. All right. Government likely to announce minimum income in the last budget ahead of 2019 elections. There is, of course, a lot of anticipation how this could really be a political budget. There would be a lot of focus on the political commentary that would be made ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, which is where, of course, there is expectation that there could be some sort of a minimum income guarantee scheme that could be put. Of course, Rahul Gandhi did mention that earlier in the week. What form and shape it would take remains to be seen. And, of course, whether or not India can afford it is the big question. Let's open this up. With me here, we've got political representatives, Raman Malik and Mohammad Khan, representing BJP and Congress. Pranjal Sharma, who's an author and economic analyst, with me here in the studio. Professor Nalapat, who's the editorial director of the Sunday Guardian. Ravi Jain, who's partner of personal tax PwC. Rachit Chawla, who's a finance and banking expert. And Ashwajit Singh, who's the MD of IPE Global, joining us on the broadcast. Professor Nalapat, let me begin with you. You know, while we're still, of course, awaiting as to whether or not it will be just a vote on account, whether it will be a full-fledged budget, breaking away from convention, the question is, all eyes on whether or not there will be some sort of an income guarantee scheme that the Modi government will actually come out with.
Well, Gauri, I'm going to just go to the politics of it. And frankly, politically, the urban vote is very important for the BJP. The BJP, if it needs to come to power, is not just UP or Bihar, it's also urban cities across India.
Right.
And in the urban vote, much more than a party manifesto, what will be important is this budget. So if you really have some major changes in this budget which appeal to the urban vote, then that's going to be much more valuable for the BJP than a manifesto. So the question is, will they use this for the polls, or will they then go by the textbook and just make it a kind of a vote on account without any politics coming into it?
All right. Pranjal, the expectation, you know, as Professor Nalapat was also saying, that it is going to be a political budget, commentary is going to be very political, which is where, of course, the minimum income guarantee scheme could be a very, very important component.
Absolutely. You know, every election year when budget is presented, there are such expectations that one big bang decision would be made to ensure that, you know, the idea and the benefits are fresh in the minds of the people, and therefore that can be encashed immediately. But I think a minimum income guarantee scheme has been discussed in forms of universal basic income. I think the Congress party has talked about it already. So the idea has been around for a while, but a promise like this, I think, is not going to be as successful as people assume. But let's wait and see how the details come out. But clearly that's a very big issue on the table. All
right, okay. Let's quickly address more breaking news coming in as we speak. Let's put that out on our screens as well as we discuss the minimum income scheme guarantee, what form and shape it would take, whether or not India can afford it. There is, of course, revised GDP numbers as well coming in that Niti Aayog has just put out, revising the GDP estimates going forward. Okay, let's move ahead. There is a lot of expectation. We've spoken about middle class. There is a lot of expectation how income tax limit may and the exemption may in fact increase. Right now, of course, we know that income tax limit that exists right now, there is an expectation it may go up. Some say it may go up to 3 lakh. There is an expectation it may even go to 5 lakh. And you know, that is where, Ravi Jain, let me bring you in. Of course, this would really be a huge and bring a lot of cheer as far as middle class is concerned. But the question really is, all right, there is breaking news coming in right now. We have to cut across to the press conference that Niti Aayog is doing right now. The GDP growth rate, as I said, has been revised to 7.2%. Let's quickly cut across to listen to the commentary coming in from Niti Aayog.
प्रधानमंत्री श्री मोदी जी ने, नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने,
so that we could put out quarterly urban data, urban employment data, and the annual rural data, as is called. So I want to state it very categorically that this data, this report that is being cited is not yet finalized, is a draft report, and the data that is being cited is not yet been finalized or approved by the government. So therefore, using this data, I think, is not the right thing to do. And the reason for that is very simple. The reason for that is that this data is still being looked at because we have to publish a quarter-on-quarter report, because that is the right thing to do. So let me explain in detail. The household survey went into the field for July 2017 and collected data for that quarter of July to September and then October to December, etc., etc. And then the data of July to September 2018 and October to December 2018, the survey was in the field, and that data has just been received and is being processed. So without having that data with us, we cannot do a quarter-on-quarter comparison. And until we do that quarter-on-quarter comparison, and we make sure that the data collected in the first round is in some sense, verified by the next, next quarter, by the successive quarter, neither do we know the delta, nor do we know the veracity of the data, because it's just that once you collect the data, आपने एक बार किया, बिल्कुल नया तरीके से डेटा कलेक्ट हो रहा है इस बार, जो पहले कभी नहीं होता था, और जब दूसरी हो रहा है तो इसके लिए एक तो उसका जो चेंज है वो निकालना बहुत जरूरी है, और दूसरा ये एक तरह के वेरिफिकेशन जो है वो भी बहुत जरूरी है. तो ये डेटा क्योंकि नहीं हुआ है और ये डेटा अभी भी प्रोसेस हो रहा है, तो इसीलिए सरकार ने इस रिपोर्ट को अभी तक रिलीज नहीं किया था. और ये हुआ था कि जब ये 6 क्वार्टर का डेटा बन जाएगा और जब ये तैयार हो जाएगा तो इसको हम लोग रिलीज करेंगे. तो ये सूरत है. तो इसलिए इस डेटा को साइड करना मेरे ख्याल में गलत है. और सबसे और भी बड़ी गलती ये है कि इसको कंपेयर करना 2011-12 से, क्योंकि 2011-12 में आपको पता होगा जो वो दैट वाज अ क्विंक्विनियल सर्वे, कोई 5 साल में एक बार होता था. उसका जो मेथोडोलॉजी थी इट वाज वेरी डिफरेंट. मैं जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, उस जमाने में जो डेटा जो सर्वे होता था वो होता था कि उसको स्टेटा सिर्फ 2 में डिवाइड करते थे, एफ्लुएंट एंड लो इनकम. उसमें सिर्फ 2, एंड देन यू पुल्ड आउट द सैंपल फ्रॉम दोज 2 स्टेटा. now this data example is being based on the educational achievements of the households, so that if there are 3.
All right, that was Rajiv Kumar, of course, talking post that report that had come out earlier in the day as far as jobs is concerned. There will, of course, be a lot of focus on the kind of commentary that comes out as far as job creation is concerned. Remember, Modi government has faced a lot of flack on that count. But as we point out, the breaking news coming in right now is the revision as far as GDP data is concerned. It's been revised from 6.7%, as we said, to 7.2%. Relief coming in, Pranjal, as far as the government is concerned, given that it is facing a lot of flack, as we said, on several other parameters.
Yes, these numbers do look better than expected, but these statistics don't really matter beyond the point in terms of beyond the perception. So I think the perception, even job creation data is not as important as the sense amongst people that yes, there are opportunities, yes, my income has gone up, and yes, that there are possibilities for me to enhance my income and for my friends and for my family. I think unless that sense comes to the people, just numbers are not going to make an impact.
Is that sense coming in? That's most important.
I think, the challenge today's world is that employment in the traditional sense is not growing, but work opportunities in a completely new environment are growing. So whether that will make an impact on the voting trends and the mindsets of voters is a big question, simply because we have been traditionally for decades being told that unless you have a government job and a permanent job, you have not arrived. So I think that is the balance which we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, all right. Let me get in the two political representatives as well, Raman Malik as well as Mohammad Khan. Raman, to you first. Of course, these are positive data points that are coming in for the government. But time and again, there has been a lot of talk about, let's address the jobs issue, because that is what Rajiv Kumar was talking about right now. And then we come into some of the other breaking news as well.
See, as my fellow panelists was saying, I would like to differ a little bit from maybe a lot of things what my other panelists were here, who are economists, would go on to say. What I am about to say is purely a layman's thing. See, when you talk about opportunities which have been there and the mindset that was there, The mindset was, as correctly said, that if you do not have a government job, you have not been able to do something great in your life. If you've got a government job, now you're secured. And your various things, whether it was, in the earlier times, some dowry issues and other things, all those things were, having those parameters.
Okay.
So today that paradigm shift has come into the mindset of people. Today it is more important whether you are employable or not, whether you are into some employment or not.
Okay. Alright, optics is all that matters, and remains to be seen what will be the narrative coming in.
11.5, 12 crore people have taken some mudra loan. These are all lower strata of the society. And they have now started some business or the other. Even if they are just taking one person more, you are talking about big numbers. There is another very important study which is about to come. My economic friends would tell you more about it, I guess. But there was this extremely poor category of people who were getting less than $1.9 a day. That number was 268 million in 2011. This time that study may come at around 50 or million.
So let's look at some of the other data points as well that will come in. We have an entire evening to talk about some of those data points, but let's address more breaking news coming in. Vivek Jayaproy, who's of course a member of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, has come out with a very important statement saying that it will not just be mere tinkering of tax slabs. What we should be bracing for should be big cuts as far as tax rates are concerned. Can that happen in a vote on account is the big question. Ravi Jain, the fact that there could be not just minor tinkering as far as tax slabs are concerned, but massive changes could be really big, and it could be the highlight of the entire budget.
So my view on this would be that, of course, we have been debating that whether this is going to be a vote on account or an interim budget or a full-fledged budget. So, of course, certainly not full-fledged, but certainly not vote on account, much more than that, maybe. As far as tax rate cuts are concerned, we all know that the current slab is 2.5. The fact that government few months back has brought 10% reservation for the economically weaker section. So if I draw a parallel from there, it provides a hint that slight tinkering in the budget, in the slab. I won't see it will go much higher, but it could be from 2.5. So 87A, which talks about if your income is up to 3.5 lakh, then 2,500 rupees rebate you can get on the additional income, 100% rebate. So that in a way amounts to 3 lakh of exemption, but that is only for income restricted to 3.5. So even if the slab is increased to 3, so point I'm trying to make is that you are only stretching it to the rest of the income group. So the toll on the revenue may not be much by doing that.
It may not be so much, but nevertheless, is this a feel-good factor?
Gauri, I just want to say that the conventional habit in India is to look at every budget from the point of that particular financial year. Unfortunately, what happens is then you put policies basically slow down growth over a 3 or 5 year period by concentrating only on this financial year. I would like to point out that if you have a lower tax rate, a much lower tax rate, you will get significantly more taxes. Now we are all talking a lot about how there's been such a growth in the tax base after demonetization. Actually, the year of demonetization, there was hardly any increase at all. Frankly. So the fact is, unless you reduce rates significantly, you're not going to have people coming into the tax base. So you need to look at taxes from a 3 or 5 year horizon instead of just a 12-month horizon.
So let's before I get in the corporate tax rate bit as well, and get both Mr. Chawla as well as Ashwatjeet, let's quickly get in Mohammad Khan as well for his opening comments. Mohammad Khan, expectation is that there could be some relief coming in for the middle classes, and in fact Vivek Jayaproy has come out with a very, very strong statement, and a statement that really gives us a sense of what lies tomorrow morning, which is that it may not be just minor tinkering but massive changes in tax slabs.
Well, Gauri, if there is tinkering in tax slabs, I was listening to Professor Nalapat. He's right. I believe the phenomenon he's referring to is called the Laffer curve, that if you lower the tax rate, the base automatically goes up and we all benefit. So let's see. I mean, you remember this time last year as well, there was similar talk that there would be an enormous relief package granted to the middle class. Yet the budget last year was, in our opinion, a bit of a dampener. We expect to see a push for things like Ayushman Bharat. That is our hope, because you remember last year we criticized Ayushman Bharat on the grounds that the budgetary allocation was insufficient to meet targets, and we were vindicated by September of last year when the CEO and the various officers working on that program also asked for higher grants. We hope that schemes like MG Narega, PMGSY and Indira Awas Yojana also see an increase. But to be honest with you, instead of getting into a hypothetical discussion, we would wait till tomorrow to see what are the numbers.
Alright, yes, of course, we should. But the fact I asked you that is because it is Vivek Debroy saying, and not just, rumor mongering that's happening ahead of budget. Let's quickly move ahead. Let's quickly now bring in the corporate tax rate as well. There is expectation there as well that there could be a 5% reduction in corporate taxes that may happen from 25% to 20%. Remember, Arun Jaitley, when he took over as a finance minister, did make that policy statement that over a period of time he does want to lower taxes, wants to bring India at par with some of the other Asian economies. There have been constraints, more than one, as far as those social sector schemes are concerned, but nevertheless there is an expectation that it may actually go down to 20%. If it does happen, Mr. Chawla, it of course was going to send out a huge message as far as the investor community is concerned.
Oh, absolutely. I think if they are able to lower the corporate tax slab, it will definitely add a lot of good vibes to all the corporate players. But I think there is also a catch to that, because right now that slab is only for turnover up to 250 crores. I think the FM will also be inclined to increase that threshold limit to maybe more than 250 crores, mainly so that the big corporates also get a piece of that. And it will automatically be a very good move if that is able to be done.
Mr. Singh, you want to come in here? Is that possible?
Yeah, no, I don't think at this stage, especially it being the budget year, there's going to be too much of tinkering. Pro middle class, and if I was ready to have my way, I'd probably say that instead of that, I'd probably make the 2% CSR, which nobody is really following. It's just something that's been passed, but force people to actually put that into pro-social sector schemes. You spoke about the universal basic income, but I think when it comes to funding of that, it's something which can be done. It can be linked to some of your existing schemes. You've got Narega, which is an employment guarantee scheme. You've got Mudra, which is really trying to promote entrepreneurship. And we spoke about Buddha. One of my friends here spoke about the numbers that have been there. But if you look at the numbers, last year 2.5 crore Mudra loans have been given. But the average ticket size is only 50,000. So now with 50,000, you can't really start an enterprise. So I think what we really need to focus on, whether we get funds from trying to we've got about 1,000 schemes centrally and state sponsored. Half the money really goes into just 10 schemes. That needs to be channelized and probably
we will take that one by one. But I want to talk about the corporate taxation. You have a point to make, because then I'll get Pranjit.
No, I just want to say that politically, if you make a small change, and I mean 2.5 to 3 or 3.5 to even 5, it's a small change. It's not a major change. And if you change corporate tax by 5%, it's a small change. It's not going to make much of an impact on the mind of the business or the voter. My point is, Gauri, because Indian corporate taxes are higher than a lot of other taxes, what happens is that corporates have an incentive to downsize the profits they show. So the tax collection becomes less. I've always been in favor of lower rates, because then Indian corporates will have, Indian and foreign corporates operating here, will then show the actual profit and pay the correct tax.
Pranjal, is that something that FM has an elbow room right now to do? Because time and again, Arun Jaitley in the past budgets also did say that I want to do that.
I think this is not something which should be a priority for the government in this year's budget.
Ahead of elections.
Ahead of elections, because I don't see a tremendous impact, because what corporate world really needs is better liquidity and, even more importantly, higher consumer demand. In the end, what drives the economy is consumer demand. And I think that's where, and that's linked to job creation. So if I look at the two key drivers of the economy, and that has a serious impact on politics, is consumer demand as well as job creation. If one happens, then consumer demand will happen, and if consumer demand happens, then economic activity picks up. There will be fresh investments, new factories will be created. today the way things are, that if you look at all the manufacturing capacity in the country, we are still at about 65 to 70% of utilization. Now, which is not very high. New investment cycles typically kick off once we reach 80 to 85% because that's when you realize, you're hitting the peak.
Yes.
So I think corporate tax should not be the real issue, but steps to trigger fresh investments and incentives to do that could be something that the corporates would be happier with.
Remains to be seen, yes.
If I have a point of view on corporate tax, I would like to go back, like in the initial year when FM presented the budget, he talked about reducing it from 30 to 25% over a period of time. And suppose even if it happens from 25 to 20 now, then look at the personal tax rate. So a personal tax rate, somebody earning more than 1 crore, the threshold rate goes almost 34%, vis-a-vis a rate of corporate tax 20%, which I think in an election year might create more heartburns rather than,
That's a fair point, yes, absolutely. And we come back to the fact at the end of the day, this is an election year, this is an election budget. There are, of course, constraints that the FM has to deal with. Let's move ahead. Let's quickly now talk about some of the other taxation slabs that many believe may, in fact, not just be tinkered, as Vivek Debroy says, may be massively revised. Let's move ahead. Let's get in some of the other breaking news as well. There may be increase in the limit under Section 80C to more than what it is right now. Changes in income tax deduction limits are likely. There, of course, could lead to a lot of feel-good factor as far as the middle class is concerned. Tax relief on health insurance may also increase, and this, of course, could be under 80D as well. So, essentially, coming back to the middle class, as far as this budget is concerned. Raman Malik, efforts being made by the government, or at least the BJP would want the efforts to be made by the government to try and ensure that middle class, that core voter of the BJP, comes back to it, who has been disenchanted, who's been the Nota warriors that affected you in the 3 assembly elections?
Well, if you say the Nota warriors have understood what they have earned by the Nota, especially the way things are being happening, whether it is Madhya Pradesh, whether it is Rajasthan, and they have seen what happens when you make a wrong decision. But let's not get it on to just the politics of it. Let's see at the India story first, and let's talk about where this government is taking India. The point is that there was a big disparity in the last so many years. There was a slogan of Garibi Hatao.
Okay.
But that population of people who were affected by that economic distress was not getting, was not getting thinner. Now, today in this governance, what has happened in the last 4.5 to 5 years is that the people who are actually wanting that help from relieving that stress of economic disparity have been helped, actually, whether it is health, whether it is basic amenities, whether it is all those things. So that is one part of it. Yes, we do understand and we do believe that there is a lot of things which are required for the urban middle class, which is called as the basic requirement as per aspirations. So we are focusing on that also, which are the infrastructural issues, which are the cleanliness, which are the other relative issues. And those all are also going to be taken care.
All that could be touched upon in the budget. Mohammad Khan, you want to come in there? A quick rebuttal or a quick word coming in?
Well, I only have the following to say to Mr. Raman Malik. It is interesting that instead of a vote on account, you've chosen to present all of these full budgets. I certainly hope for your sake, because you have a terrible economic legacy that you're leaving behind. 4 economic advisors have resigned, 2 RBI governors left under mysterious circumstances. Today's report, which shows unemployment at a 40 high. I can only assume you're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat tomorrow.
All right.
Don't worry, we'll pull out Rahul Gandhi.
I thought you were going to say, Mohammed, that most of us would be in complete agreement.
Don't worry, Mohammad Khan, we'll pull out Rahul Gandhi. Don't worry.
All right. Okay, Raman Malik. Let's not take this debate in that direction. Mohammad Khan, very quickly, if there are exemption limits as far as 80C is concerned, if they are enhanced, nobody should be having a problem with that.
Well, we never have a problem with the minor tinkering that this government carries out. That is what a government is supposed to do. It's supposed to make the law better and more in sync with the changing dynamics of the economic reality. One of your panelists very rightly pointed out, consumer demand, consumer sentiment drives growth, and that comes into play when there is employment. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to carry out a massive public works program to encourage employment, especially amongst rural areas where 18% is the number we saw today morning? Shocking. We haven't seen those kind of numbers since, since 45 years. So again, this government is, I don't know what they'll do, but whatever they do, it won't be enough, is my feeling.
All right, okay. On that note, we slip into a very, very short breather. We come back and continue this discussion ahead of the union budget that will be presented tomorrow. Many believe it could just be a vote on account, and of course the government is looking to make it a big political pitch. What lies ahead? What could be in store for you, the viewer? Stay tuned. We come back with that broadcast. Welcome back. You're watching our special broadcast. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. You're tuning into NewsX ahead of the crucial budget speech of Piyush Goyal, the Interim Finance Minister, which may, of course, set the political tone of BJP's campaign for Lok Sabha elections. We bring to our viewers the expectations, what could be some of those major announcements that may be brought about tomorrow morning. Besides, of course, the taxation tinkering or changes in the tax slab, there is also an expectation that there might be a commentary around fuel prices being brought under the ambit of GST. The reason for that is when petrol prices were sky high last year, there was a lot of heartburn, especially amongst the middle class, who felt that they've been, of course, getting a raw end of the bargain. Remains to be seen whether or not it happens. The commentary around that could be very interesting. Also, electric and hybrid vehicles could be another area where there could be some sort of tax incentives that could be announced. Again, a huge push by the government as far as green vehicles are concerned, and something that, of course, Nitin Gadkari and his ministry have been pushing for some time. And it doesn't end there. There is an expectation of natural gas as well as ATF, that is of course your jet fuel, that could also be included in the ambit of GST. Remains to be seen what, of course, out of this will actually come true. But, let me ask you this, Pranjal, and that's a question I'll take to the entire panel, which is that fuel prices did cause a lot of heartburn last year. It was the middle classes who felt that we didn't get the better end of the bargain when the prices were rock bottom. Excise duties were increased 11 times. Why are we getting the raw end of the deal? Do you expect some kind of a commentary coming in around the fuel prices?
Well, if you see, after that the fuel prices went off. So it is like being out in the sun. When the heat is very high, you're really upset, you're angry and dissatisfied. When the clouds come and the breeze starts blowing, then you feel much better and you kind of forget what happened when the sun was, scorching you. So I think the same kind of sentiment kind of plays out for most of us as consumers. When the fuel prices are high, we get very upset. I don't think the people have that long-term memory and try to, connect to the global oil prices and what I'm paying right now. Right now, I don't think at these few days, fuel prices is top of the mind challenge for people. I think they are really looking at what kind of other economic benefits they can get, what kind of opportunities they can get.
Okay.
I think the issue of being employable is very important. Ravan mentioned that. I think that is something which people are saying, I'm getting very restless. I want to do something. I see a lot of action happening around me, but how can I participate in that? So I don't think fuel is a very big issue at this moment.
Okay, all right. Professor Narapat, you want to come in there? Then I'll also get Mr. Singh as well as some of the other panelists as well.
Well, I'd like to say, Gauri, that many tens of millions of people are aware of the decline in global oil prices, and they're also aware of the increase in prices at the pump in India, and also aware of the fact that it's much higher in India than in so many other countries.
Yes.
The problem is that this government has also, like the previous UPA too, made a fetish of this so-called fiscal deficit.
Right.
Now the reality situation is faster growth. So if you focus on the fiscal deficit and you sacrifice growth, you're sacrificing your long-term future.
Okay.
And I think this is what has happened. And this high fuel price is because of this fetish of the fiscal deficit.
Okay. All right, Rachit Singh, you want to come in there that, there is a lot of commentary around whether or not it's time to also bring in fuel prices?
I think probably this may not be one of the major sort of features that's going to shake the budget this time. I mean, yes, there is a need to sort of rationalize fuel prices over a period, but again, I don't think that's going to be that critical this time. What I perhaps would be more important is the other point that you raised about looking at electric vehicles and having an incentive to try and encourage that, because globally we've seen that that's the way the rest of the world is really moving, and that is something of the future.
What kind of tax holidays they give would be interesting.
Yeah, and coming to India, I mean, here one of our biggest problems is really the environment. So that's something that we're going in line with what's happening globally, and at the same time we are also working towards improving the environment and the pollution levels itself. So I think I would want to see definitely some kind of a major incentive given to hybrid vehicles, kind of a major incentive given to promoting electric vehicles in India.
Okay,
I think if I can add to what Professor Nalpat said. See, it's important, this focus on fiscal deficit can be also interpreted in the way of having enough revenue generation for the country. Now, the difference between, I would say, between UPA 2 and NDA 1 and NDA 2 actually is that while both have focus on welfare schemes, UPA 2 didn't really have a plan for raising the revenue to fund it, and that was the biggest debate those days, that you have all these great schemes coming up, fine, but how do you fund it? And that's where the economic collapse. NDA 2 has been trying to generate that. They have succeeded in some measure in terms of expanding the tax base by various measures, but they've also faltered in terms of disinvestment. You know, the Air India sale was a complete blunder. It was done internally by the government system, which, you know, just didn't have the kind of sense of what was required. So I think let's link it to the revenue generation also, and not just fiscal deficit.
I'm glad you did bring up, you know, some of those revenue aspects, and of course divestment as well. Yes, they have missed those targets. The only way they can fill it, of course, is through SUTI, but that, of course, is unrelated right now. Let's quickly, as we have been talking about through the last couple of days, this is a budget where we do expect that middle class may play a larger role. In fact, they would get their share, and not just, you know, the social sector schemes that are, of course, likely to dominate as far as political commentary is concerned. Let's quickly tell our viewers also what is the expectation as far as home loans, education loans, all those you know, issues that are very dear to a lot of middle class families is concerned. There is an expectation, incentives for affordable housing and REITs and income tax benefits on home loans are likely. There may be some revision upwards as far as the tax break that is available under ATC. Income tax benefits on home loans may also be likely. That is the expectation. Let's move ahead. Let's also talk about the education loans. There is again some sort of expectation that budget allocation for education sector may also be enhanced. There may be more support for new IITs and new IIMs that may also come about. First up, Ravi Jain, let me ask you about, you know, as far as home loans are concerned. You know, time and again, many have said that this is just too insufficient and absolutely unrelated to the realities of the home market in India.
Yeah, so I would somewhat agree, because the home loan interest benefit, which was up to 1.5 lakh for a self-occupied home loan, and which was without any limit for a let out, was capped to 2 lakh. So 2 lakh limit with rate of interest going further north, I think it's something which we have to look at, specifically when the real estate sector investment market is kind of slowing down. So this can be a good area where FM can look at.
Even education loans, you know, time and again the fact that there could be more focus and impetus on new IITs, new IIMs, again is the need of the hour.
Yeah, of course, I completely agree. So education loan, also is something which can be, you know, added specifically when we are looking at creating jobs. I think education can build a right base for the country.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Maybe I think I'd like to see a lot of more work being done on skill development. We talk about education, but when we talk about employability or we talk about job creation, it's really skills that we need to
If you ask me, skill development really hasn't been one of the highlights of this
government.
It's
not been the highlight, and you see the reason for that is it's too fragmented. It's being run between 12 to 13 departments, something at the central level, something at the state level. So I think a lot of focus needs to be done on that.
I'll just update you on a little. Just very near to where we are sitting right now in Palwal, the construction of the first skill university has already started. And these are basic things which are going to be, let's say, the backbone of the growth in the coming era. But you will have to create the requisite infrastructure. I'll tell you one more thing which I think, and a lot of you may differ. You see, a lot of emphasis is being given by a lot of economists on to the growth in the quantum of asset value. But somehow I presume that the asset value, if it keeps inflating, would never be making a robust economy.
All right.
It always creates a demand-based economy, but it does not create an economy which takes care of the entire environment around, which includes pollution, which includes education, which includes everything. So you have to make sure that, let's say, asset class like your gold, your properties, do not inflate, skyrocket. There should be a systematic growth which is able, which a general public is able to accept and take.
I'd like to just come in on skills here. See, 97% of India's workforce is unskilled. 80% of the workforce is still in the informal sector, getting less than 10,000 rupees a month, which is below the minimum guarantee, minimum wages. So fine, some work is being done on skills, but I think it's too little, too late. So I would want to see some major announcements around skills.
That is why I came in initially in my comments. I told you about this 11 odd crore plus people who would possibly be acquired by this new employment that has come to...
I'd like to see those announcements.
See, those have been done. That, Mudra loan has actually happened. So unskilled are being taken care of. The point is, there is a huge... You are talking about 1.31...
The schemes are in place. The schemes are in place. I want to know the impact of those schemes.
I have a view as far as skill development is concerned.
Rao said once that if you announce whatever you have to announce...
No, I'm
sorry. Please listen to this. Narasimha Rao very categorically said once, and I remember this, he said, if you keep announcements and you do not fulfill them, or you do not make a path to fulfill them, there will be no credibility. But this government has been making paths to attain that, and that is why the credibility is there.
Let's quickly get in some of the other views. Yes, Professor Nalapat, you had a view, then I'll get it Rachit as well.
Very briefly.
And Mohammad Khan.
I mean, I wish Narasimha Rao got a Bharat Ratna, frankly. I think he deserves it a lot more than so many other people. But we are discussing as though this is a regular budget. And not a budget by a government, I mean, frankly, not on vote on account at all. And I just want to say that if these things had been done 2 or 3 years earlier, the impact would have been fantastic for the economy also. I just want to make a point, and that is, I don't know Mr. Mohammad Khan's party what it's going to do tomorrow. But my guess is, if some really good proposals come, like the 10% thing, the Congress is going to immediately support it. And if they do that, then they're going to hope to dilute any positive impact. The Congress, in my view, behaved with great, frankly, tactical skill in supporting this 10% reservation, and they might support all these tax breaks if they're actually going to come.
Yes, absolutely. Mohammad Khan, you want to respond to that?
Yes, of course, Professor Nalapat. In fact, every year when the Finance Bill is passed, we of course vote in favor of the amendments to the Finance Act and the new Finance Act that is then brought in. So we are not here to quibble over small points. I just have 2 quick points to make. First of all, the BJP spokesperson's homespun witticisms and economic knowledge aside, I have 2 things to say. This entire GST, bringing petrol under GST debate is a false flag. And I'll tell you why, Gauri. Because as per the constitutional amendment carried out, which brought GST into force, which we supported, by the way, the fact is that the GST Council can at any point of time decide to bring fuel within the ambit of GST. They can do that if 2/3 of the vote is cast in favor of that resolution.
Mohammed, I am in complete agreement. As far as fuel is concerned, GST Council is a bogey that BJP uses.
So they could have done it
completely
by
in
now if they
agreement with you.
wanted. They didn't.
I am completely in agreement with you that this is a bogey
argument.
that BJP uses. GST Council, 1/3 is the central government's vote, 2/3 is what the state's vote is. And there itself, BJP, till now, of course, had governments in 19 states. And they could have passed it. I'm in agreement with you. But the question and the response, in fact, was to what Professor Nalapat said, that if there are these feel-good factors and in terms of these middle-class breaks that are being talked about, tax breaks for the middle class, the Congress would, of course, be supporting all that. Whether it is the home loan, whether it is the education loan, whether it is new IITs, IIMs.
पिछले 5 साल में आपने देखा है, हम तो हमेशा उसके साथ, whenever they've come up with the scheme, even with Ayushman Bharat, it is the job of the opposition to ask about the details. In fact, if they were in opposition, they would do the same thing. What Professor Nalapat calls tactical, I call our constitutional duty. The government can make any kind of sloganeering and promises, but when they're on the floor of Parliament, they have to give us a roadmap. We cannot exonerate them from that responsibility. That is why we ask these questions. Mr. Malik talks about universities, etc. May I remind the government that they have saved several lakh crores of rupees from the windfall gains from oil, and yet we have no idea where that money has been spent. Because
11 lakh
the ministry's website, they say it is being spent on rural development.
11 lakh crore,
we don't know where the money is. Yeah, 11 lakh crores. How many AIMS and IITs could have been built in that amount of money, Gauri? You tell me.
I'm going to now slip
But
into...
11 crore people get opportunity to have their own businesses is a problem for you. People getting gas is a problem for you. Ayushman, people getting that
Mr.
is
Malik,
a problem
again,
for
please
you.
don't embarrass yourself by saying that. One panelist pointed out the average size of the Mudra loan is 50,000. 50,000 is easy business
You
to renew.
are always somebody who would call, let's Garibi Hatao, 70 to 2020, you're going to talk about Garibi Hatao, but you do not want the Garib to progress. That is what your thing is, because then apparently a vote bank goes off.
Between 2005 and 2015, 270 million people have been elevated out of poverty, something your government can never hope to accomplish. You know why? Because of Jumlo ki sarkar hai.
2014 to 2018, sir. These 70 million plus people have been going.
Alright, Robert Malik,
much
Mohammad
faster
Khan.
than yours.
Okay, we need to slip into that very, very short break. Mohammad Khan, we come back and talk. We come back and talk politics. We come back and talk the social sector schemes. We come back and talk how much of money is going to go into the Awas Yojana and the Gram Sadak Yojana, the Yojanas which are going to really be the hallmark of this budget. How much money is really going to go into those social sector schemes? We're going to come back and talk on that. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We're of course in our special broadcast ahead of Budget 2019 to be presented by Interim Finance Minister Piyush Goyal. All eyes on the commentary that will come out that would set the tone for BJP's campaign for 2019. Expectation is that social sector schemes, specifically whether it's the Narega or the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or some of the others, as far as Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is concerned, all those social sector schemes related to power, rural electrification, roads, all that could get a huge boost and a huge leg up. There could be massive increase in the allocations for these schemes, sending out a message, as I said, for rural India, where of course BJP did get a jolt after when of course those 3 state election results came up. But those flagship schemes could in fact get a huge increase as far as allocations are concerned. More importantly, let's also move ahead. Many have been saying that this could really be a farm specific budget. It could have some sort of farmer income that could be there, guarantees for farmers. It could be direct benefit transfer for farmers. That could be there. Crop insurance, there could be an update there as well coming in. So largely in line with what many in the party believe, that it's time to focus more on the rural folk, it's time to focus more on the farmers, which is what the assembly election results threw up. Raman Malik, let me ask you this. Is it going to be a political commentary of the Modi government ahead of 2019? Focus on rural, focus on farmers, especially after the 11th December jolt.
Well, it's going to be a clear speech about what we have done, yes. It's going to be about our philosophy, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, yes. It is going to be about a positive India. It is going to be about a vibrant India. It is going to be about all those things which are India positive. And that is the way forward for India to go. See, when Standard Charter and things like organizations like that, they have a study and they pronounce that if India goes on the same track, India could by 2030 be the 2nd biggest economy in the world. Those guys do not just say it for the heck of it, or they're not bhakts as per what probably some people would say. So this government is actually making the foundation of this nation strong.
All right, okay. Pranjal, you want to come in there?
Well, you know, this budget could, you know, we should look at some of the perception issues which the finance minister would like to talk about, and I would like to flag the issue of crony capitalism, because that's linked very intrinsically to the corporate sentiment and the fact that what the government can claim to have achieved some success of in terms of, you know, removing, you know, the first time in the history of India, the owners of businesses are scared of losing their company if they have, you know, indulged in fraud or they have mismanaged money. And I think in the recent days, we've also seen some of these people who are absconders come back into the country, some as recently as today. So I think there's going to be this narrative of ensuring that there is a clean system where people who are thought to be above the law are being brought under control. I think that would be an important...
There was fresh updates on the Augusta case yesterday as well.
And I think that will reflect in the budget too.
Okay, yes, that will reflect in the budget too. Professor Nalapal, very quickly, then we slip into a break.
Well,
Do you see social sector schemes really being the highlight of this budget with a lot of focus on more money, more allocations there?
Look, Gauri, it depends on whether it's going to be a vote on account or whether it's going to be an interim budget. And if it's going to be an interim budget, definitely this is more important to the BJP than its manifesto.
Of course.
This is going to be much more important than about 100 speeches by the Prime Minister and Mr. Amit Shah. This is a very, very critical thing for the next election. So from that point of view, knowing the BJP and its, frankly, it's the way it is very focused on getting back to power, it is very likely that these things may happen. I just want to make a point regarding Mr. Talwar or Saxena or somebody coming back. These are small fry. Their only value is if they can net the big fish.
Yes.
So if you can use a Talwar or a Saxena or a Michel to net really big fish, which frankly this government has not done at all since 2014, that will make an impact. But some Talwar or Saxena coming back, I don't believe there's any impact.
All right, okay. Can we stick our neck out and say it's going to be a full-fledged budget or a vote on account? We probably cannot. But at this stage, what we are most certain of is going to be a political speech with a lot of political commentary that could set the tone for BJP's campaign. On that note, we slip into a very, very short breather and we come back on the other side with a big debate around, is budget 2019 going to be about universal basic income? Has the time of that idea come now? Remember, Arvind Subramaniam did talk about in 2016 economic survey, but he did also mention that where's the money? Is that idea now something that budget 2019 would focus on? Stay tuned, we come back with that debate.